The 49ers are headed to Cleveland, but Myles Garrett and the Browns defense might not be the only challenge the 49ers will be facing. The weather could also make things dicey. We'll discuss all the key matchups on today's 49K pod.
You're listening to the 49 Carats podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Friday, November 28th. It is the day after Thanksgiving. It's Black Friday, so we're all just a little stuffed. We're having leftovers today. We just finished watching the first Black Friday football game. That was pretty interesting, right, KP? Like, that's probably two teams that the 49ers could very well face in the playoffs if they end up making it there, but especially the Bears. Playing them in a few weeks, so it was a good game for scouting the competition. But how was your how was your Thanksgiving, and what did you think about that game just now?
Yeah, it was good. We spent time. I don't know what time other people eat, but we ate right around the Cowboys game when the Cowboys were playing the Chiefs, and that was another eye opener. I thought going into that one, the Cowboys are who the Chiefs or who people think the Chiefs are, right? With this average team who everybody thinks is going to make a second half run, and that kind of played out to fruition. A lot of the same today. The Eagles have a good record, but they haven't really played anybody. And when they do, their offense looks like poop. And once again, their offense looks like poop. But I thought they were going to be able to score against the Bears. So them not being able to manufacture anything against Chicago is kind of surprising. But there's no doubt that I think the Bears are closer to the real deal than the opposite side. Their offense is legit, even without Caleb Williams really having a strong game. But Definitely a couple playoff teams. I still don't think the Eagles are going to win a game in the playoffs, even if they do make it, and would not be surprised if the Bears go on a mini run.
And Jay, my bully ball co-host, Jason Aponte, in the comments here, so repulsed by that Eagles offense that he's asking KP for a day off from Niners Nation.
Man,
don't blame him. Don't blame him.
Right.
All right, well, let's get into this matchup that the 49ers have coming up for them on Sunday. Let's get started with the injuries. Now, of course, we don't have Desi here, but that's mostly because, the injuries are some of the same that we had last week. And basically the new addition is Sam O, who exited last week's game with an ankle injury. So we got 3 players who are out, and that's basically it. So there really isn't much to discuss from this standpoint. And then from, the Brown side too, like there's really not too much, right? There's Brennan Bates. It's mostly just like backups for them and rotational guys. Like Aiden Huntington is really good defensive lineman. Actually got to interview him on the channel before in the offseason before the draft, and he's a really good kid and really talented player. And he's going to be out for this game, but he's been a really nice addition for that defensive line. It feels like everyone on that defensive line is just so talented. But yeah, I would say, like, as far as the injuries from both sides, nothing too major. But just like maybe going back to the 49ers side, KP, when you look at what Curtis Robinson did for filling in for Tatum Bethune as a Mike linebacker, there was much to be desired, right? I think when he had to go in on spot duty, a couple weeks ago, it was like, okay, he finished it off. You were not expecting a huge drop-off between the two players. But last week, there was a number of, miscues and missed tackles from Curtis Robinson. Do you feel like that kind of spurred maybe the signing of, Eric Hendricks to the practice squad for the 49ers? Are they thinking about maybe bringing in Nick Martin and having him play some Mike at some point? Like, how'd you feel about Curtis Robinson?
Yeah, you were talking about not having much injuries or many injuries this week. I thought it was pretty telling when Kyle Shanahan said, hey, like, we've been in contact with him for quite a while, when he was talking earlier today. And the fact that they waited a game to see what Curtis Robinson brought to the table. And, on paper, it looked like the 49ers defense did well. They didn't give up much of anything. But the one, glaring issue was just missed tackles and giving up things over the middle. And that was right in the area where Curtis Robinson was. I think he missed 3 tackles, probably missed 4 or 5, but he didn't make contact. So it seemed like he only missed 3. Yeah, I think that if they were to play a team like today, a team like the Bears, imagine what Ben Johnson would do to them in that regard. So not having Tatum Bethune, who I think is like an A minus run defender, is going to make a difference, especially in a game like this. So just needing a player like Eric Kendrick. Would Eric Kendricks play? Would Eric Kendricks sign a contract with the 49ers to sign up for, backup role? Would he be relegated to special teams? Probably not. So I thought that was pretty telling, the fact that they went out and got a guy like Eric Kendricks, who, at the same time is probably available for a reason. If you kind of look at his stats, the stats tell how he was last year, where still an effective blitzer, still effective against the pass, but as a just in pass coverage as a whole, but he does allow yards after the catch as well. So I'm fascinated to see what he has left in the tank athletically, but it can't be worse. It won't be any worse than what Curtis Robinson put on the field last week. Because again, like you're expecting that from a third stringer, I guess, even more so, drop off from Tatum Bethune, but he just looked a step, but he looked like a special teamer, I guess is the nicest way to put it, which again is to be expected when you lose multiple players to an injury.
Yeah, well, we'll see how Curtis Robinson does this week, or maybe I don't think Eric Kendricks will get the call up this week, or if he does, like I wouldn't expect that, he gets any snaps in this game just with, he just joined the team, but, maybe next week or I guess next week's the bye week. So I'm not really sure what their plan is. Maybe it's just more so if Tatum Bethune misses more time after the bye week. It's always nice to have some insurance with certain groups, and linebackers been a little snake bitten thus far. So not a bad idea to bring someone else in. But let's get to talking about this Browns defense, shall we? So let's take a look. Headlined, of course, by I didn't even update this one, my bad. But headlined, of course, by Myles Garrett. And I mean, I think we all know just the threat that he brings to any team, any offensive line that he's going to be playing. And I would say just right out the bat, like it's not just about this defensive line of, this Browns team. The entire defensive line is really good, but I would say like Myles Garrett going up against anyone on this 49ers offensive line is going to be an issue. It's not just about him going up against, Trent Williams or Colton McKivitz. I think we'll probably see him line up against other guys as well, or they get stunts going. And I think KP, like that's the biggest concern for me. I mean, he's just such a talented player, probably one of the last, in drafts when they say generational player, this is probably the last most accurate one that we've seen. He's just been that good, especially this season. 50 pressures, sixth most, but obviously leads the team. He's been chipped the second highest rate, but he still has a pressure to sack conversion rate that does lead the NFL. 18 sacks, which is insane. He's on pace for 27 sacks. And even in the last 4 games, he has 13 sacks, which is the most ever in that span. I mean, what can the 49ers even do to limit the impact of a player this special?
So this might be a game, and obviously the weather is going to play a big factor in that as well, but this might be just screen game to death, or even the Mac Jones game plan where it was against the Rams. Everything was under 10 yards, and they're just like peppering Kendrick Bourne with targets. So I would imagine it's a lot like that, where one of the first things Shanahan said after his height, weight, speed was just how quick Myles Garrett is getting off the ball. So the last thing you want is to put a guy like Colton McKivitz and hang him out to dry. So I would imagine we see a ton of screens. And if Ricky Pearsall wasn't involved much early or in these first 2 games he came back, this will be an opportunity for him to get the ball quite a bit. Probably George Kittle. And obviously goes without saying that they're going to get Christian McCaffrey involved underneath. So I'd imagine a heavy screen game and a lot of quick passes, which they're going to have to do anyway. I don't know if you saw the weather report. The weather is insane, nasty in this one, where 25 to 35 miles an hour. And depending on which direction that blows, and maybe they're going to, if they do have it to their back, they're going to use an opportunity to take shots down the field. But I think we're going to see a very conservative game plan. And maybe not conservative is the right way to put it, because I think there are still ways to be aggressive without throwing the ball down the field, but they're not going to give Garrett an opportunity. And just thinking of it, will Kittle be involved in the screen game? That's probably going to be the guy who's going to be spending some time blocking Myles Garrett, because he is one of the few tight ends in the NFL who can hold up against just like premier athletes. I remember against the Texans, they were using Kittle, or they were using him in just as a blocker in general. So when they play good defenses, that's when he takes a step back.
Yeah, so exactly. Probably not expecting a big Kittle game from the receiving standpoint. But, I think there's other ways that the 49ers can win this game. But yes, as KP mentioned, the weather is going to be a factor in this one. Among all the other things that we're discussing here is like cautious for the 49ers, right? The weather's not going to help. It's going to be a high of 39 that day, so it's going to be pretty chilly. The good thing is that it does seem like maybe the worst of this weather might hit in the morning or potentially before this game happens. Maybe it'll impact the start of it, but you're talking about snow, you're talking about some rain, but also there's going to be some wind. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is just how the wind could impact this game. Maybe you're not going to see a ton of passing in this one, but definitely something that I think is going to impact the 49ers more so than the Browns, who are probably maybe more adjusted to weather like this. But, it's usually the offenses in any case that get a bit of an advantage when it comes to weather like this as well, wetter conditions like this. So
yeah, I think actually, like when you say the weather might have missed him, it could lead to, I don't remember, like Trey Lance Chicago game where it's just sloppy. The field was so sloppy because of the rain. So that usually leads to some missed tackles. So if anything, that's when like a screen game, and that's when, hey, if you just make one guy miss after the catch, that's how you generate an explosive. So it could work into their favor, but also on the other side, right? I'm sure we'll get to that. It could go against them as well.
KP, is it just me, or does it feel like the 49ers, what's the department that, is responsible for cleats and all that?
Just like the equipment
department. Yeah. I feel like they're very ill prepared usually for these types of games. Like the first quarter, you see guys like slipping everywhere, and then like at halftime they're like, oh, they changed their cleats. It's like, how do they not know which cleats to wear? Like, I know they're not used to this sort of weather, but my goodness, so it's not just me, right? Like, this is a thing.
Oh, there's usually one team slipping, and it is the 49ers and not the team the 49ers are playing. Exactly. And then, no, that is, we always hear, well, they went in and changed gloves, they went in and changed cleats, but you have 90 minutes before the game to get out there and figure it out. So,
and all week, all week to prepare for all those factors as well. So yeah, hopefully we don't see that in this game, but I guess it also would not shock me if we did. Now, expecting that maybe we do see more of a ground game in this one. Well, I do feel like the Browns rushing defense is pretty good as well. Now, we do talk about the possibility that you get a little bit of messiness and some missed tackles just from the conditions on the grass. But, let's just take that aside and look at what the Browns rushing defense have done so far this season. They're 4th in yards per rush allowed, allowing just 3.8. They're 11th in rushing yards allowed per game, just a tiny bit over 100 yards allowed per game. And as we know, like the 49ers run game hasn't been the most efficient. They're averaging 3.6 yards per rush. Christian McCaffrey can make things happen in other ways, right? But we do have the small one-game sample size of Christian McCaffrey in this offense against the Browns in that 2023 game. He had 11 carries for 33 yards, 5 catches for 45 yards, and the 1 touchdown he had on the opening drive. Let me ask you this, KP. Do you feel like this is a game where maybe Brian Robinson makes a little more sense to get him more involved? Because he looks like a mutter to me. Like, this is just the type of game that I think he could excel in, just given how tough of a runner he is.
Yeah, and he had last week, in limited action, he had like 5 broken tackles where he's just bouncing off players. This is these weather kind of games. Isn't that why you go and get a bigger back? Isn't that why you want a player like Brian Robinson? I agree there, but it's Kyle Shanahan, and he has no interest in taking the ball away from Christian McCaffrey. He's had every opportunity, but just doesn't seem like that's something you want to do, that he wants to do. But it should be, right? Like he shows, even if it's like a 1-2 punch, even if it's, hey, McCaffrey gets 20 touches, Robinson can still have like 10. So it will be interesting to see how they play off each other. Maybe they use him earlier, but I don't know if you saw this. McCaffrey really didn't practice much at all this week. He was listed as a full participant. Shanahan said, hey, with a short week, with a quick turnaround, we wanted to get him. He was needed. So maybe that's a hint that it is going to be more of a Brian Robinson weekend, knowing that they're going to need McCaffrey in the passing game.
Yeah, and not even just that. I mean, the usage that McCaffrey had last week was insane, right?
Yeah.
So not just on the short week, but just coming off a game where, he had a lot of snaps. So yeah, I think it makes sense. But of course, McCaffrey wasn't on the injury report. He's fine. He just had the extra 2 days. But yeah, I think they'll want to run the ball probably, just given the conditions of everything, but not sure that they're going to find much success. So then that means the 49ers offense really comes down to this guy. And the reason I have this as cautious, maybe I don't even have to mention that, he threw 3 picks last week, right? And now he's going into Cleveland, where the last time he played there, he was 12 of 27. So that's like 44.5 completion percentage, threw for 125 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. So yes, he did lead the game-winning drive. We do have to give him some credit for that, except it wasn't game-winning. Jake Moody missed the kick, but he did put the 49ers in position. It does kind of feel like a game where that might be all you need, but I do still have my concerns just with the seemingly carelessness of Brock Purdy and just not being able to take care of the football this season at all. And you pair that with what the Browns defense has done this season, 18.1 completions per game that they're allowing to opponents. That's the 3rd lowest. They're tied 9th in takeaways per game. At home, especially, is when they're at their best. They're allowing 6.5 yards per pass attempt, which ranks 11th, and 2.9% touchdown rate, which rank 3rd. And the quarterbacks they face, haven't just been nobodies. Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, and Tua Tagovailoa all at home. So those are pretty good numbers. And here comes Brock Purdy coming off a 3-pick game. What would your expectations be for Brock in this one? And how could he avoid disaster?
Yeah, I mean, last week, the one area where you just really couldn't do was force feed targets to the guy who J.C. Horn is guarding, and that's kind of what happened. Stay away from the other team's best player. It seems pretty simple, right? That player this week is Denzel Ward. He might not have the same stats or pedigree, but he's still like a high quality. I think he has like a $95 million contract or whatever. So just think about it, right? Where you are at your best is targeting McCaffrey, targeting Kittle underneath and taking the shots. And to Purdy's credit, like the shots were there when he did take them. He was just off. This is going to be a tough matchup because the pass rush is just so much better than what they faced. We talk about Myles Garrett in Jason's article. He talks a little bit about Mason Graham and just how the team as a whole generates pass rush without blitzing. So they're middle of the pack in blitzing, but lead the league in pressure rate, which is very tough to do. And obviously the sign of a very high quality defense. So Brock is going to have to, he's going to have more bodies in the secondary at the same time, which makes it difficult. It's not going to be these one-on-one matchups. So more than ever, he's probably going to be called on to, I don't want to say check it down, but work the first and second level as opposed to working the third and second level, which is just what he's been accustomed to do. So he's going to have to play within himself, which is a big ask because that's not who he is, right? He wants to be that reckless sandlot, throw it down the field and make a big play. He's a big play hunter, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in this kind of setting, when the wind can take control of a pass where, hey, you think my guy's open, all of a sudden the wind shoots the ball down and now it's 10 yards underthrown, and you just tough to prep for those kind of things. So I would imagine the game plan calls for Brock to slant out, just like underneath intermediate swing passes, screens, and occasional big plays. Whereas last week early on, they are chucking and heaving down the field. I don't think we're going to see that. And a lot of that is because of weather. But it was clear in the second half Shanahan was not going to let his quarterback lose in that game.
Yeah, I'm preparing for this game to be so freaking boring. Like, it's so boring, so
Punt, punt,
frustrating.
punt,
It's just,
punt, punt.
yeah, it's gonna be one of those. But again, like that's why I feel that it'll just come down to whoever does the best in the fourth quarter and can get points on the board when it matters most. Now, it's not just about being concerned about the run game and then Brock Purdy. And then also, it just seems like Kyle Shanahan seems to struggle against Jim Schwartz defenses. Jim Schwartz teams are 6-1 against Kyle Shanahan, either as a coordinator or head coach. And he has a 3-0 record against Shanahan as Shanahan's been head coach of the 49ers. When you see just schematically what Jim Schwartz does, like what about it gives Shanahan and his offense such fits?
So, I mean, it helps to have like these transcendent
The
players, right?
stars, yeah.
To have Myles Garrett, to have like a Mason Graham, who he might not be a star yet, but he's trending that way. So they can come at you in waves up front. Denzel Ward makes them very, very good in the back end when you have like a shutdown-ish corner like that. You can do a lot more with the rest of your players. They have speed at linebacker, so it helps in the middle of the field. It helps getting to outside runs. And I guess they have fast corners. They have corners where they can get away with playing man coverage. Another rookie that not a lot of people have talked about is the Carson Schlesinger dude, the linebacker from UCLA, I believe. Like he's been balling all year. So he just has a bunch of good athletes. And it's been that way a long time. Shanahan talked about playing against wide nine, and Schwartz kind of was the first one he went against playing the wide nine. And that's why he went and got Chris Kosaric. I think that was the Titans when he was with the Texans. So that wide nine scheme, for whatever reason, seems to give them fits as well. Probably just messes with their blocking rules. I'm sure like blitzing, the nickel blitz has always been an issue, and that's where he's going to come from. So the tendency breakers that you can get with are pretty much all come from Schwartz. So I think that's why he's kind of the blueprint on how to get over on the Shanahan offense. The Packers game, they scored 10 points. That's effectively a Shanahan offense. I know they've evolved. It's McVay, Shanahan, LaFleur, but for a lot of the principles that the Packers do come from Kyle Shanahan, and they only scored 10 points, and they went 2 quarters without scoring at all. So I think that's the closest thing we can, based on who they played. It is the Packers. So just losing one-on-one, that's another thing. And that's where I think missing a guy like Brandon Ayuk really comes into play at times for the 49ers, is not having a true X receiver. I find it a little fascinating that the 49ers are electing to leave Ricky Pearsall at Z and roll with Juwan Jennings at X, because at X you want like more of your speed guy who can win one-on-one. But for whatever reason, they're letting Juwan Jennings be that guy and not even Demarcus Robinson. So I don't know if the trust is there to beat coverage outside, which also kind of plays into, hey, now maybe Brock feels like he has to do more. So there's a lot going into this. The spiral effect of injuries and not having your full complement of weapons, but for Shanahan and Schwartz, I think in general just good players, nickel blitz, and just history, right? Knowing what this offense looks like over the course of 10 years, 12 years, having studied it and knowing how to get over on it.
Well, something you said really terrified me, and that's Brock feeling like he needs to do more. I mean, that's usually like when things can go wrong for him. And we already talked about how difficult this Browns defense is going to make things for him. So it just feels like a recipe for disaster a little bit. And 49ers are going to have to play some mistake-free football in order to come out with a win in this one. I think we all know that. Like we know there's a lot of things that just don't feel right about this one. But I do think there are some good things that can come from this matchup. And most of it comes from what the Browns offense is doing. And it's because they just haven't been very good this season. In fact, like if you look at the Browns record, their offense is the reason that their record is as bad as it's been. It's certainly not their defense. And they've gone through a lot of changes at the quarterback position this year, obviously. And the latest is Shedeur Sanders at quarterback right now after having his first start and first career win last week. Of course, that was against the Raiders, but it obviously accounted for something because they're having them start a second week here. But that's who the 49ers will be facing. And then you got, a couple of rookies, Harold Fannin Jr., Quinshon Judkins, Isaiah Bond, and on the outside, you got Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman. So when you look at this offense, I mean, you do feel like this is the 49ers opportunity right here, right? Like, is there anything that does concern you about this Browns offense, or something that if the 49ers aren't careful, like this could be the thing that hurts them most?
I think this offense is awful. I think Shedeur Sanders is not good. So there was no way they could bench him. Right? Just imagine if they were to go back to Dillon Gabriel after a win.
Yeah.
Judkins is good. No, I will give them that. Judkins is very good. But like statistically, Jerry Jeudy is like one of the worst, like the least efficient wide receivers. So any target toward him, I feel like that's a win because he's just so inconsistent. Isaiah Bond, rookie, undrafted, probably he was not playing for much of the year, I believe. Same Cedric Tillman, just a guy who you wouldn't really rely on as a top threat in your passing game, probably more of a wide receiver 4 than a wide receiver 2. So the weapons that they have don't really scream, we're going to get over on you. They run the ball a lot, but they're not good at it. So a lot of their stats are just more volume as opposed to just being effective. This is a very good matchup for the 49ers. The one area that I would be concerned at is I think Fannin is pretty good. I think he's solid. And I think he's a guy who can get over on them after the catch. So really, if they just take, and maybe that's where they highlighted, hey, like we need Kendricks. We need a guy who's familiar. We need a guy who knows what NFL offenses look like. But that, as you said, like he just signed. So he's like, is he really going to play like on a short week after a few days? That feels like a big ask to ask him to grasp the entire defense. But at the same time, they have been in communication. So I'm sure they sent over the playbook. So all that's to say, I have a hard time. As much as the main talking point this week has been, how are the 49ers going to score against Jim Schwartz? As poor as the 49ers defense has been, I don't see how this offense is really able to generate much of anything. I really struggle to see them getting north of like 17 points.
Yeah, because I think the 49ers matchup last week was similar in a way, like just a Panthers offense that also not very good. And I would say the Panthers offense better than the Browns offense. So
I would say by quite a bit, honestly.
Yeah. So given that, I mean, as long as the 49ers show up, remember, this is an early body clock game for them. Sometimes they appear to those and look like they didn't know a game was happening. As long as they look like they knew a game was happening, and the 49ers defense is, on their P's and Q's, like they should be able to have a repeat performance of what they did last week. Now, also, I think it was the best performance from the 49ers safeties. I mean, we given the safeties flag, especially for, what they've done in coverage, but 2 interceptions from Jair Brown. I mean, that's good stuff. It just looked like they were playing a little more instinctually, playing quicker. If they can continue to do that, even in this matchup, yeah, I'd have a hard time thinking that the Browns offense is going to be able to have much success at all.
Yeah, so Shedeur, he passed up quite a few throws since he's been on the field over these past 2 games. You see the rollout throw where he shot it down or he hit down the field like 66 yards or whatever, but there are plenty of other examples where he's either taking sacks that he shouldn't, holding onto the ball, or outright missing throws. And that was kind of the worry last week with Bryce Young, or just Bryce Young overall, where he's just not seeing the field well. When you don't see the field well against a Robert Saleh defense, you really don't have a chance. And I think they have an opportunity to not only get after Shedeur, but get into some throwing lanes. And we could probably see another game where the safeties have opportunities to make plays. So there are not many areas where I feel like Cleveland can get over on Saleh. A lot like last week, where maybe the Panthers had an opportunity to score in garbage time and move the ball, but that's when the Browns get behind, their passing game's just completely night and day. And that's something that nobody's really talking about. That he didn't have to do anything last week. It was 10-3, I think 17-3, and just they were never really tested. When they're tested, I think we're going to see a much different Browns, Shedeur with the Browns anyway.
Yeah, and last week, again, it was his first start, 11 of 20, 209 yards, a touchdown, an interception. He was sacked once. I find this interesting, right? He faced a league high 57.1 pressure rate. And then I saw another stat along tied to this one that, kind of attributed most of that due to the quarterback. So he's taking too long. He's creating pressure for himself. And if that sticks, I mean, even with the 49ers pressure not being the best, I think they could get home to Shador potentially. And then also we've been bringing up the fact, right, that Salah's been bringing in those nickel blitzes with Upton Stout, and we've seen how those have had. While it hasn't turned into sacks, like we've seen it have some success, right? Quarterback has to get the ball out. Upton Stout almost gets home, so little things like that can help, make things easier for the 49ers defense and put the Shador uh, in a predicament, I guess, and in position to potentially make a mistake. I think that's kind of what you want to try to force. And yes, 209 passing yards, 66 of those came from his lone touchdown pass of the day, that Dylan Sampson screen touchdown. So he did have a couple of downfield passes. We talked about Isaiah Bond. He had a completion of 52 yards downfield, and then Jerry Jeudy had one at 39. But if you're looking, that was against the Raiders. If you think the 49ers secondary, the safeties are going to have a better performance than that, then, I think this is like the 49ers opportunity here. Just don't let them score any points or keep it to a manageable level to where even if the 49ers offense is going to have some issues, they won't need to have to do too much in order to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, the one area where the 49ers have been very good all season is not giving up the big play. Like they've been very, very stingy at allowing explosive plays. And that's where I think this comes into, like, this offense plays right into that, right? They're not going to throw the ball down the field. They're probably not going to beat you on a down-to-down basis. So at some point early in the game, the ball is going to be in Shadur's hands, and he's going to have to convert 3rd and 7. And that's going to be like that for multiple times over the first half and probably over the course of the game. So when that's the case, and when they're asking him to throw, when they're asking him to actually do quarterback things and not throw screen passes. So I think everything on the screen right now, 30th, 31st, 32nd. That's very real when you watch them too. They go a lot of drives in between scoring. So you see 17 on the board, but we watch these two. We watch every NFL team. 17 is not a lot in the NFL. That's actually below average. So I don't want to be too negative on the Browns because anything could happen any week, and weather really does assist the offense in these conditions, in my opinion. So for all I know, a missed tackle can turn into a touchdown or to lead to a field goal. So I don't want to make it seem like it can't happen, but a lot would have to go wrong in my mind for what the 49ers do for a Shador Sanders-led offense to get over on them. And again, Judkins, he has big runs every now and then, but even then, he's asked to do so much where it doesn't seem sustainable for them to be this explosive offense. I don't think that's going to happen this week or anytime soon.
Is why the right cleats do matter. It could very well play a role. If you have a bunch of missed tackles because everyone's slipping and that leads to a Browns touchdown that shouldn't have never happened. That would be something that could potentially go wrong in this game, and one of those weird things with bad weather games that could happen, right? That's what's so frustrating and unpredictable about them. But to go back to your point about just how awful the Browns offense have been, for the audio listeners, I'm going to rattle off a few of these. We're talking about just a potential 3rd and long situation, right? Browns are 30th in 3rd down conversion rate, 31st in first downs per game. They're averaging this season 16.2. Just last week with Shador as a starter, they only had 11 first downs in that game, and 31st in EPA per play, 32nd in EPA per drop back. I mean, yeah, it does play to the 49ers' hands. But of course, that I don't know if you noticed this, but a lot of the cautious matchups did outweigh the favorable. It's just that the Browns' offense is so bad that maybe that balances it out. It's what I'm hoping, at least, right?
Yeah, I mean,
But
if you give Kyle Shanahan enough swings at it, they're not going to be shit. I don't think this is going to be a game where the 49ers score 13 points either. I know, like, we keep referencing, I think it was 17-13 in 2023. Like, we keep referencing that as a lone data point or whatever, but I don't think this is the same situation that we're walking into, because this offense is going to give the 49ers offense plenty of cracks at it. And when that's the case, I think eventually Shanahan will figure this out. And let's not act like the Browns haven't given up points this year either. They gave up 41 to the Ravens. They gave up 34 to the Lions. They gave up 32 to the Patriots. They gave up 27 to the Jets, 23 to the Ravens. So they've allowed points, and that's probably more of their offense, punting. So it does bode well, I think, for the 49ers offense. Again, they haven't struggled to move the ball either. It's just about taking care of the ball. And their red zone offense has been surprisingly good too. So there are a lot of things that favor the 49ers in this situation as well. But again, weather, uncertainty on the road, the body clock is very real, that early kick time, like you mentioned. And then, the turnovers.
All right, so let's talk about our score prediction. Before we do, I'll just say Cleveland games are on average 34 combined points. That's lowest in the NFL. You did point out, some of those big scoring games for some of their opponents, but I want to say most of those have been away games, right? So I think, they are better at home defensively. Allowing 14 points to opponents at home versus 26.9 away. That's a huge difference. I don't know what it is for them, but what's at home, but they play better. So yeah, I'm gonna keep this score prediction pretty low for myself. I'm gonna go 10-6.
Nice and nasty, man. 16 is. Whew. I hope we do not have to sit through 3 hours for 16 points. I'm going to go 20-13, which seems so much higher scoring than what you said, but still, it does. 33 points in an NFL game is not a lot either. I do think the 49ers have some success. I do think they will stall in the red zone just because I think the weather is going to really affect them there. But I actually don't think they're going to struggle as much between the 20s. I also don't think they're going to get that many possessions because there's going to be so much running. The clock's going to be moving. But I do think they get to 20, and I think that's going to be the magic number this week. I don't see the Browns having much success at all. But again, 13 points for an NFL team having 12, 13 drives, that's not a lot. I think we see the defense, actually the pass rush, come alive, thanks in large part to Shadir holding on to the ball. And I think it's another game where we see an interception as well.
From which team?
Fair point.
Maybe one each, right?
Fair
I can see that.
I want to be clear that Jair Brown is a quality player. I do not think he's nearly as bad as fans think. It's easier to say this now that he had an interception, but he's been making a ton of plays near the line of scrimmage as a run defender where he just fits and inserts. So they've gotten a lot better since he has been in the lineup. There are some man-to-man issues that everybody has. It's not his fault. He was never supposed to be playing man-to-man as it is. That's more of a personnel department. But I would not be surprised if one of the safeties, again, just take advantage of a Shadir overthrow, a Shadir miscue. So, yeah, I'll double down with one of the safeties running it back with an interception.
Do you think Purdy throws a pick in this one? Because I do. I think he throws at least one. He has 3 of his 4 games. He's thrown multiple interceptions.
Okay.
The number game here. I think he throws at least one.
I don't. I would imagine he has. I think it's going to be a game where they get the ball out of his hands so quickly. And actually, as much as we talked about the Browns' defensive line, the 49ers' offensive line has been very good. Honestly, closer to top 5 than top 10 in my mind. And I try to watch as many NFL games as I can. But listening to people think that the way the 49ers offensive play and then rewatching them and how they actually play, I really think they're set up well to at least hold up for Brock. And when he has time and he won't be forced to go through 4 reads because he's going to be playing hot potato, I don't think he's going to have an opportunity to throw an interception. That could change the second he scrambles, but I don't think so.
An opportunity to throw back. I mean, I don't know. It feels like he creates the opportunities for
100%.
himself.
100%.
I don't know if he even has to do with the offensive line at all. But yeah, so we're thinking it is going to be low scoring. I think it'll be lower scoring. But to be fair, to put even more context to the 49ers 2023 game, Trent Williams did leave that game. Debo was out, right? So like that is important for the team who was facing a tough defense already. And as we said, Jake Moody missed that kick. Eddie P would have probably made it. Matt Gay maybe makes it. Like, I don't know, but those are the differences in this game. So maybe the 49ers could pull this one out. I'm assuming you gave that score, but you assume that the 49ers win this one?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to come down to needing a game-winning attempt from your field goal kicker.
I hope not.
It should.
I can't do that. I can't do that again. But all right. Yeah, I think I'm also expecting the 49ers win in this one, but it's not going to be pretty. I think it'll feel like it's going to be a loss for like 3/4 of the way, and then there'll be Kyle Shanahan will break through in the fourth quarter at some point, and that'll be it. You
can't tell me he hasn't been hearing all week about 1-9, right? Or how he was just asked today for about 2-3 questions in a row. Hey, like Jim Schwartz owns you. How does that feel? So come on, like these guys have egos. He's going to take it personal. And 20 points against the Browns probably is a lot. So especially in these conditions.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully, Kyle Shanahan gets his win. We would all certainly like that. But hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday. Thanks for everyone that tuned in. Thank you, KP, for joining us on Black Friday. And make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. We'll be back for the post-game show on Sunday. For now, folks, have a good rest of your Friday. Great weekend. Peace.